Juneteenth should be seen as a day that, at least on paper, the country's collective soul begins to emerge from the darkness, right? When the precepts of American independence that we usually associate with July 4th begin to be actualized, although with a long road ahead. My name is Douglas Flowe. I'm an assistant professor of history in the history department here at Washington University. I write about and study and teach about African American history, urban history, masculinity, and I specialize in looking at criminality and how it connects to identities. Juneteenth is the most popularly celebrated holiday marking emancipation from enslavement. It specifically refers to the general orders by the Union Army indicating the completion of national emancipation of enslavement issued in Texas in June of 1865. The Emancipation Proclamation had already gone into effect in 1863, but the news was just making its way to Texas. And so what you see is that it ends up entering into African-American community that is teetering on the edge of freedom, but also in a lot of ways being held back. In terms of celebration, it was and still is about gathering, celebrating emancipation, but also thinking about and acting in terms of togetherness and thinking about collective progress. There's often food and games and entertainment, different types of dress, and other types of community reaffirming activities that in many ways rebuke the dehumanization of unfreedom. In that way, we can kind of understand it not just as a celebration, but also as a sober look at the practical circumstances of the national Black community. It's also a moment to recall race in American history in a way that accurately counters whitewashed versions of American history that don't recognize the legacy of racial violence and inequality. It's definitely true that it's meaningful for African Americans that every African American should be free in order for there to be a sense of actual freedom. But it's also true that there are a lot of ways in which we should really understand Juneteenth as something that all Americans should celebrate. If we truthfully understand that one person's freedom requires that all be free, this is not simply about African Americans, but we should also think about the fact that the emancipation of enslaved Americans is the moment that the entire country actually becomes free for everyone, at least theoretically. This particular moment in American history it's particularly fitting to be talking about Juneteenth, since in many ways it reflects the age-old need to remember and assess history correctly. It's crucial, especially at this moment, for us to view what is happening right now, police killings and protests, through a historical lens that sees all the way back to the Middle Passage, especially if we're to expect this moment to have lasting impacts. And that Juneteenth is about fully recognizing and understanding history so it can be used in the present, right? I mean, Juneteenth is about recognizing the past so that African Americans can move forward with a sense of progress into the future. And right at this moment, that's what we need to be thinking about. And it's a moment where a lot of Americans are struggling with the fallout of the COVID-19 virus and realizing, being forced to realize to some extent how connected our realities really are. And Juneteenth is about that. It's not simply about African Americans, it's about human rights.